operations with variables. Now, just like math, we can do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division with variables, assuming that these variables have a number value. And so let's just go ahead and use a comment over here. We see that this plus sign stands for addition. This minus sign stands for subtraction, which we all know. This asterisk, which is the top one on top of the 8, that stands for multiplication, and this slash stands for division. Another bonus one is mod division. It's the percent sign, and that essentially is the remainder. Now, if you guys don't know what mod is, that is totally okay. That's more of something that you understand as you guys learn about it in math. So once you guys learn about it, once you're old enough to learn about it in math, you will understand mod, but that means modulus, or which I like to just think of it as the remainder. So this is kind of like our key. This is what these operations are. We don't need to review these because hopefully we learned all of them when we were in pre-K. Let's go over here, and we're going to talk about incrementing and decrementing. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say we're going to work on incrementing / decrementing now. I'm going to create my own variable again, and I'm going to assign it and declare it in one line. Var my num, again using camel case, is equal to, let's just use 9 for now. Now, guys, what do you think would happen if I did my num plus plus? So some of the kids, and let me print out the value to the console log my num. Okay, there we go. So some people said plus plus would give you 81. Some people said plus plus would give you 27. And I all understand where those are coming from, right? It makes complete sense. Some people think you're doing it to the power. Some people think you're multiplying. Some people said 11. They thought you were adding 2. It's actually kind of weird, guys. It's going to give you 10. And the reason why is because if you do plus plus, it basically says add 1. So whatever variable plus plus would be the value plus 1. So that's just something to remember. Now, over here, my num minus minus. And then let's console.log my num again. Most of you guys, some people actually did think that we were going to get 9. Some people, we're going to get 9. Yes, that's the right answer. But some of you guys thought that we would get 8. Now, this is where we really want to go over the order in which the program looks at our code. On line 16, my num is equal to 9. On line 17, since we added 1, my num is equal to 10. On line 18, my num is still equal to 10, except we just printed 10 to the console. Since we know that plus plus is plus 1, we're assuming that minus minus is minus 1, right? But since at line 18, my num had a value of 10, when you subtract 1 from 10, my num is now back to 9. So this my num minus minus and my num plus plus balances everything out. So by looking through this line by line, we kind of see that it goes in chronological order. So that was incrementing and decrementing. Pretty easy to understand, I would believe. And let's talk about shorthand operations. So this shorthand is plus equals, minus equals, multiply equals, and divides equals. Let's go ahead and do that. Shorthand. So say we're going to be using variable, we'll use variable my num, variable num is equal to, let's use 10. 10 is a pretty even number. And so if I did num plus equals 5, what's your guess? What do you think is going to be the value of num? Well, I'll tell you. Num plus equals 5 is the equivalent of num is equal to num plus 5. Okay, so we can go ahead and console console.log num. Now another one, num minus, here, no, let's run this one first because then our values will always be changing. We run our code and we get 15, and that's correct because 10 plus 5 is 15. So how I want you to think about it is, say, when it says plus equals, just think of it as 10 is equal to 10 plus 5. So num is equal to num plus 5, which is 15. Let's try it again. Num minus equals 5. So this would be num minus 5. What do you guys think would come out now? Probably 5, because 10 minus 5 is 5. And yes, we are correct. Let's work on asterisk equals 5. This multiply equals 5. What are we going to get? This is probably num times equals 5, right? So we're going to get 50. Hopefully by now you're starting to get a sense of the pattern, what's going on in our code. So last but not least, we have slash equals 5, which is num divided by 5. And from that, we know that 10 divided by 5 equals 2. So that is the shorthand. With numbers, it is pretty easy, right? But let's go ahead and try this with a string. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say var message is equal to I'm a huge fan of, and then we can say message plus equals golden retrievers. I hope I spelled that right. That does not look right. Golden retrievers. Okay, let's take a guess here. What do you guys think this means? Message does not have a number value, right? It has a string value. But then we added on golden retrievers. What does this mean? Let's think of it this way. We're going to say message is equal to message plus golden retrievers. And since message is I am a fan of, shouldn't this line give us I am a huge fan of golden retrievers? And that's exactly what it does. Console.log message. Let's run our code and we'll see what happens. Run, we get, I am a huge fan of golden retrievers. So that is, again, another way you can use shorthand with your string variables. Now, that is operations with variables. The last big topic that we have to conquer is data types. We've already talked about data types quite a bit. We've talked about strings and numbers. These are both called data types in JavaScript. So in JavaScript, there are 7 total data types. They are undefined, null, Boolean, string, symbol, number, and object. There are 7 of these. There are 3 that you will use most commonly: string, number, and Boolean. So quick review of what these actually are. Undefined means it has no defined value. Null means it has no value. Boolean is true or false. String is letters, words. Symbol is like a symbol. Number is, well, a number. And object is something that we will get into another day. Today, I want to introduce to you guys the type of keyword as well as these double and single quote strings. So we're just going to play around a little bit with type of, and then we'll see. So let's come over here. I'm going to, this is just printing out a blank line so we can get some separation. Data types. Now let's look. We have var message, we have var num, we have var my num, we have var puppy love, and var puppies. So let's go ahead and use type of to print out the data type of these variables. Console.log type of, no caps, nothing, no spaces, okay? Type of, and then the first one we had was puppies. That was the first variable. We can also console.log the type of, it was puppy love. These are all variable names. Next one we can do console.log type of we said num, and then last one we can do is type of message. All right, so when we run our code, we see number string, number string. What does this mean? Let's take a look. The first line, line 36, says to print out the type of puppies. Well, what is puppies? Puppies over here is a variable that is equal to 17, which is a number. So the data type is a number. Variable puppy love, this is a string, so it would give us string. Now the next one we wanted to do was num, and let's come and look at num. Num is 10. So 10 is a number, and finally message is a string. So that is type of. Let's do one last example of a Boolean, which is true or false. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say, I'm going to take a look at this page. I want to show you guys this really fast. Type of true. Now that is true and false is Boolean. You can use these when you're kind of maybe doing a quiz or something like that, but true and false is Boolean. Boolean is going to be something we go into later, but for now I just want you to know in your head that true or false is Boolean. Type of X. Now if you don't define X, if X is not one of your previous variables and you ask for the type, it goes undefined because X has no value. It has a value that hasn't been defined yet. So we can go ahead and try that. Console, it's not in the middle there. Console.log, what's a variable that we haven't used? Type of Y. Now Y, does Y exist anywhere in our code? No, right? So we run our code and we see undefined because we never had Y in our code. So guys, that was our JavaScript lesson for this week. We have officially finished with class 1. In this video, we talked about variables, operations with variables, as well as data types. So we will see you guys back next week. I cannot wait to get into our second lesson of this JavaScript course. We have 8 more lessons to go. Bye, guys.